All right. Hey, everyone. If you're out there and hoping to land that government job in India, especially thinking about banks,
Yeah.
regulatory bodies,
Yeah.
SSC exams, well, this is the deep dive for you.
That's right.
We're going to be talking about something that comes up on those exams.
Yeah.
And that is National Energy Conservation Day in India.
And what's really cool about this is it's not just about, being eco-friendly and all that stuff.
Right.
This is a real look into how the government is tackling a big issue with real policies and programs.
Okay.
The kind of stuff that, you might get tested on.
Exactly. And we have got tons of info for this.
Oh, yeah.
We've got reports from the Ministry of Power.
Uh-huh.
We've got stuff from the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, the BEE.
Right.
We've got details on these National Energy Conservation Awards. And we've even got some news coverage. So we're going to break it all down for you.
I think what's important to remember is just knowing about this stuff shows that you're not just someone who studies all the time, but that you actually keep up with what's going on.
Right.
With current events and what the government thinks is important.
Yeah.
And that looks really good in interviews and group discussions.
All right. So first things first.
Okay.
What is National Energy Conservation Day?
So in India, we celebrate it every year on December 14th.
Okay.
It's basically a day to remind everyone how important it is to be energy efficient and to live sustainably.
So kind of like, your parents telling you to turn off the lights when you leave the room.
Yeah, exactly. But on a much bigger scale.
On a much bigger scale. Got it.
Yeah. And this isn't something new. Either the Bureau of Energy Efficiency or BEE, as it's called.
Okay.
Under the Ministry of Power, they started this way back in 1991.
So there's that government connection right off the bat.
Right away.
Now, for those listeners who are really focused on those exams, why should they care about this day?
Because if you look at those exam papers, they're almost guaranteed to have questions about energy conservation, all that stuff.
Okay.
Especially the exams from banks, regulatory bodies, and the SSC.
So it's not just about being a good person.
Right.
It's about
it helps you on the exam.
Getting those points on the exam.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, there's something that can really help boost how you do on those exams.
Okay.
And that's the National Energy Conservation Award.
Awards.
Yeah, awards.
Tell me more about that.
So every December 14th, they give out these awards to, recognize people who are doing amazing things.
Okay.
To save energy, like businesses.
Right.
Institutions, even individuals who are just going above and beyond.
To save energy.
To use less energy, yeah.
I bet there's some stiff competition for those.
Oh, I'm sure.
But for our listeners out there, thinking about these exams, why should they care about these awards?
So if you get to know the different award categories and who's won in the past, that can actually impress the people grading those exams.
Okay.
It shows that you're not just learning from textbooks. You actually understand how things work in the real world.
Okay.
You might even be able to use some of those examples in your answers.
Oh, smart.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
Let's dive into some of the actual government initiatives.
Here.
This is where we might find those exam questions.
Absolutely.
Let's start with the Reform, Achieve, and Trade Scheme.
Or the PIT scheme.
PIT scheme, okay.
It's all about getting industries that use a lot of energy to be more efficient.
So the government's basically saying, hey, you big companies,
you
got to find ways to cut back on how much energy you're using.
Exactly.
But how does that work in practice?
So they set these energy reduction targets for these industries, and it's actually been really effective.
Really?
Yeah, we're talking about saving 55,000 crore rupees worth of energy every year.
Wow.
And it's cut down CO2 emissions by 110 million tons.
So it's not just good for the environment.
Right.
It's good for
the economy.
The economy, exactly.
And that's something you can talk about in your exam answers.
Okay.
Showing you understand the bigger picture.
All right, so we got the PA scheme. What other initiatives should we know about?
Well, there's the Standard and Labeling Program, the S&L.
Okay.
This one's all about helping people make smart choices about the appliances they buy.
Right, like those Energy Star ratings.
Exactly.
I always look for those.
Yeah, so that's the S&L program at work.
Okay.
It covers something like 38 different appliances.
Wow.
And they use those labels, mandatory and voluntary ones, to help people pick the stuff that uses the least energy.
So it's good for the planet. And it can help people save money on their electricity bill.
Exactly.
Which every exam taker can appreciate.
I know, right?
But, we can't forget about electric vehicles
Right.
and this Go Electric campaign.
Oh, yeah, the Ministry of Power is really pushing that one.
Yeah, they launched that back in 2021, right?
Yeah, 2021.
All about getting people to switch to electric vehicles.
Yeah, and electric cooking appliances.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Makes sense, with fuel prices going up.
and we need to move away from fossil fuels, right?
Exactly. But how do they actually get people to switch to electric?
Well, a big part of it is just raising awareness.
Okay.
They've also got some practical tools.
Okay.
Like that EV Yatra web portal.
EV Yatra.
Yeah, and a mobile app, too.
Okay, what's that all about?
Well, it's basically a nationwide database
Okay.
of EV charging stations.
So if you're going on a road trip,
Yeah,
you can use that to find charging stations along your route.
exactly.
That's cool.
It takes away that worry about running out of charge,
Right.
range anxiety.
Okay, so we've got the Pirate scheme for big industries,
Right.
the SNL program for appliances,
Yeah.
the Go Electric campaign with the EV Yatra app.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot to remember. Before we move on to other initiatives,
Okay.
maybe we should take a minute and think about how to actually use this stuff to get ready for those exams.
Good idea.
What should our listeners really focus on?
So it's not enough to just memorize what each program is called, right?
Right.
You really need to understand why they exist in the first place.
So instead of just saying, the UJL program distributes LED bulbs,
Yeah.
a good exam taker would explain,
Explain how it helps.
how it reduces energy use,
Yeah.
how it can lower people's electricity bills,
Exactly.
and how it helps India fight climate change, right?
You got it.
Okay, so it's all about connecting the dots, showing that you understand the bigger picture
Exactly.
and how these initiatives fit into India's goals, right? You could even talk about how switching to LEDs
Yeah.
is creating new jobs.
Yeah, new markets, new jobs.
Okay, great point. Shows you're really thinking.
Thinking critically.
Now, let's go back to those National Energy Conservation Awards for a minute.
Sure.
You mentioned earlier that they could be useful for exam prep.
Right.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah, so getting to know the award categories
Mm-hmm.
and who won in the past,
Okay.
it's like you're getting a sneak peek into what the government thinks are the best ways to save energy.
Okay.
You can learn about new technologies,
Right.
successful ways to make things work, and how these initiatives are actually impacting different sectors.
Yeah, and then I could use that in my exam answer.
Yeah, imagine being able to mention an award-winning project.
Oh, that would make you stand out.
It would definitely make you stand out.
Now, we're trying to help people get ready for those tough government exams.
Yeah.
Those bank exams,
Mhm.
regulatory bodies, SSC.
Mhm.
What other advice would you give them?
Well, besides knowing the details of each program,
Right.
it's super important to understand the bigger picture.
Okay.
Like, what are the policies and rules that are driving all this?
Okay, so like the policy framework.
Yeah, exactly. You need to understand the laws,
Yeah.
the regulations,
Mm-hmm.
the targets that India has set for itself
Okay.
when it comes to energy conservation.
Right.
For example, there's the Energy Conservation Act of 2001.
Okay.
That's a really important law.
So knowing about that could help me explain
Yeah, like why those programs exist.
so the P8 scheme,
Yeah.
the SNL program.
Exactly. And don't forget about the institutions involved.
Oh, right.
Like the BE.
The BE.
Yeah, they play a huge role
Okay.
in developing policies, implementing programs,
Mm-hmm.
basically promoting energy conservation all over India.
So if there's a question about the BEE's role,
Right.
I'll be ready.
Exactly.
It's all about connecting the dots. Seeing how everything fits together.
Yeah,
This has been a really insightful deep dive.
it had.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the history of National Energy Conservation Day
Mm-hmm.
to the nuts and bolts of these government programs, and even some career advice for our listeners.
Absolutely.
But I bet our listeners are eager to learn even more.
Yeah.
What other programs and initiatives should we be aware of?
We've really only just scratched the surface.
Okay.
There are so many cool initiatives out there, each one with its own unique approach to saving energy.
Right.
Like, for example, there's the star rating program for buildings.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Okay, so this program is a great example of how we're trying to save energy in all sorts of places.
Okay.
So it gives buildings star ratings based on how much energy they use.
Oh, kind of like...
Kind of like the energy star ratings we see on appliances.
Yeah, exactly. So a building with more stars is better, right?
Yeah, more stars means it uses less energy.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the question is, how do we get those builders
Right.
to actually make those super energy efficient buildings?
Right.
Well, there's a few ways.
Oh.
First, buildings with those higher star ratings, they can charge more rent
Okay.
or sell for more money.
Makes sense.
Because people want to live and work in places that save energy.
Right.
Plus, some state governments even give them tax breaks.
Oh, wow.
Or make it easier to get building permits if they build those energy-efficient buildings.
So they're really trying to incentivize it.
Yeah, make it worth their while.
But it wouldn't work if people didn't know what those star ratings meant.
Exactly. So the BEE has been working really hard
Okay.
to teach people about the program
Okay.
and how it can benefit them. They've got resources and tools to help builders, architects, even regular people understand how to get those higher star ratings.
So it's not just about setting the rules. It's about helping people follow them.
Yeah, providing the knowledge and the support.
Now, this is interesting because our listeners, they might end up working in the government someday.
Right.
Maybe they'll be the ones implementing these programs.
Exactly.
What advice would you give them?
If I could give them one piece of advice, it would be to work together.
Okay.
And to be innovative.
Okay.
Saving energy isn't just one ministry's job,
Right.
It takes everyone working together. Urban planners, policymakers, industry leaders.
About teamwork.
Yeah, break down those silos and find solutions together.
And think outside the box. Right.
Exactly. Encourage research and development. Look for new technologies.
Okay.
Come up with creative ways to pay for things.
Right.
And find ways to make everyone want to save energy.
It's a big challenge.
It is, but it's an important one.
This deep dive has been so informative.
It has been.
We've learned so much
I know.
from the history of National Energy Conservation Day to all these different programs and even some tips for our listeners' careers.
Yeah, hopefully they're feeling inspired
I think
to make a difference.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive,
All right.
let's leave our listeners with a few things to think about.
Okay.
First, remember that saving energy isn't just an Indian issue.
Right.
It's a global issue.
A global one.
India's leading the way towards a more sustainable future.
Absolutely.
And you, as future government officials, you can be a part of that.
You can make a real impact.
Second, never stop learning.
Keep learning.
You've got to stay up to date on the latest technologies and policies.
And the best ways to do things.
Because this field is always changing.
Always evolving.
And finally, don't forget about your own actions.
Yeah.
Every little thing we do.
Every choice we make.
From the appliances we buy to how we get around.
It can all help make a difference.
Absolutely. So as you study for those exams, remember that understanding energy conservation.
Yeah.
It's not just about getting a good grade.
It's about having the knowledge and skills
to
make the world a better place.
We wish you all the best in your journey.
I do.
And that concludes our deep dive into National Energy Conservation Day in India.
It does.
Hopefully you found it helpful and inspiring.
I hope so.
Until next time, stay curious and stay energized.
It's kind of like a way to make sure we're saving energy.
Right.
Even when we're talking about the buildings themselves.
The buildings themselves, okay.
So you know how appliances have those Energy Star ratings?
Yeah.
Well, it's similar for buildings.
So like the more stars a building has, the more energy efficient it is.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
But, we got to think about the builders too.
Right, the people who actually build the buildings.
Yeah, how do we encourage them to really go all out and make those super energy-saving buildings? Well, there are some pretty cool incentives.
Okay.
So first off, buildings with those higher star ratings, they can actually rent for more money.
Really?
Or sell for a higher price.
That makes sense.
Because people are looking for those energy-efficient spaces.
Yeah.
And some states even offer, tax breaks.
Oh, wow.
Or they'll speed up the permit process for those energy-efficient buildings.
So there are real benefits for the builders.
Exactly. They have good reason to build those efficient buildings.
But it wouldn't really work if people didn't know what those star ratings meant, right?
Absolutely. So the BE has been doing a lot of outreach to explain the program and how it can actually benefit everyone.
So it's not just about, setting the standards.
No, not at all.
It's about providing information and resources.
Exactly. They want to make sure everyone understands and that they have the tools to achieve those higher ratings.
Now, our listeners out there, they might end up working for the government someday.
That's right.
Maybe they'll be the ones promoting these programs.
Absolutely.
What advice would you give them?
You know, if I could give one piece of advice,
Yeah.
it would be to focus on collaboration
Okay.
and to really embrace innovation.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
So saving energy isn't just one department's job, right?
Yeah.
It takes everyone working together, from urban planners to policymakers to industry leaders.
So it's really a team effort.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We need to break down those silos
Yeah.
and find creative solutions together.
And don't be afraid to think outside the box, right?
Absolutely. You know, we need to support research,
Okay.
encourage the development of new technologies, and find new and innovative ways to finance these projects.
Right. And to get everyone excited about saving energy.
Exactly. It's a big challenge, but it's so important.
This has been an incredibly informative deep dive.
It has been, yeah.
We've learned so much about National Energy Conservation Day.
Yeah, we really dug deep into the details
It's a different program.
and how they all work together.
And we even got some great career tips for our listeners.
Hopefully they're feeling inspired to make a difference.
I think so. So as we wrap up,
Yeah.
let's leave our listeners with a few final thoughts.
Sounds good.
First, remember that energy conservation is a global issue.
It really is.
It's not just happening in India,
It affects all of us.
but India is leading the way towards a more sustainable future.
Absolutely.
And you, as future government officials, you can be a part of that change.
You can play a key role in shaping that future.
Second, never stop learning.
Yeah, keep learning, keep exploring.
Stay up to date on the latest technologies, policies, best practices.
It's a constantly evolving field. There's always something new to discover.
And lastly, don't underestimate the power of your own actions.
Yeah, every choice we make matters.
From the appliances we use to how we get around.
We can all make a difference.
So as you prepare for those government exams, remember that understanding energy conservation.
Yeah.
It's not just about passing a test.
It's about equipping yourselves with the knowledge and skills to make a real impact on the world.
We wish you all the best in your journey.
We do. Good luck.
And that brings our deep dive on National Energy Conservation Day in India to a close.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you found it informative and inspiring.
Until next time.
Stay curious. Stay energized.